Hey everyone, it's good to see you back. Today we're taking a nice and easy approach when it comes down to dealing massive poison build-up over time. We are all familiar with Necrotic Grip and Osteo Striga for Endgame, and using it with Prismatic also provides a ton of ways to spread its effects further. So why don't we create a version that is not only great for Endgame, but also uses these seasonal mods for extended benefits, whether you want to or not. Let's kick in. Let's start with the exotic armor, Necrotic Grip, with its exotic effect, classed with the Devourer. It states, damaging a target with melee poisons them, dealing increased damage over time. Defeating a poison target spreads this condition. Necrotic Grips is one of the many powerful exotics that can escalate damage on a given field, and also wipe out a wide number of enemies just from the one singular input from your end. On its own, it makes most charged melees have an extra kick to them, but when added to a melee with range and additional effects like Unraveling, they make them extremely popular to use over time. This is the case with Arcane Needles, which is what I'm running with, but also combining this with the likes of Osteo Striga means that the poison effects will always be on and active no matter where you are. Once you combine this with Transcendence, that's where the real magic tends to show. Our second exotic is the Osteo Striga with its exotic effect, Screaming Swarm and Toxic Overload, which states, fires a stream of sentient, toxic projectiles that trap the targeted enemy. Landing a final blow, or multiple precision hits, triggers a burst that poisons nearby targets. Depending on what you prefer, the build can work with a wide number of Weapon of Sorrows, so you aren't limited to just one. In my case, I start with Striga, as it has more rounds in its base magazine and can overflow on demand as long as your poison effect kicks in on the target. Now of course, Thorn is also a good replacer if you want something similar, but also does more damage with time, or even in Necrochasm can work via final blows, and this is a weapon that gets seriously overlooked by many. The gist here is that the weapons will still pop poison effects as long as you have Necrotic Grip attached at all times, so flexibility for Weapons of Sorrow is available. With exotics completed, we now have the aspects and fragments, which are the following. Feed the Void, where defeating a target with an ability will grant you Devour. Hellion, where using a class ability will produce a solar turret that will scorch and ignite targets it hits. A Facet of Grace, where defeating a target with kinetic weapons will grant you a bonus Transcendence energy for light and dark. A Facet of Solitude, where landing rapid precision shots emits a severing blast from the target. A Facet of Hope, where having an active elemental buff would slowly regenerate your class ability. A Facet of Balance, where rapidly defeating targets with light abilities grants melee energy. Rapidly defeating targets with dark abilities grants grenade energy. And a Facet of Dawn, where landing a charged melee hit will grant you Radiant. A powered melee final blows makes you and allies radiant. So the build is going to be familiar with those that have seen my previous version of the build before using Doxia. So if you don't want to see this section get repeated, then you can skip ahead to the next section instead. Now, as the build will be using Arcane Needles for triggering Necrotic Grips constantly, you do not need to max out your strength stat to use it whatsoever. Instead, we will be using Transcendence to achieve our goals. The fastest way for this, outside of our abilities, will be Facet of Grace, as this combined with Osteo Striga or even Thorn can build up how fast we get our Transcendence state up from start till finish. With the added on poison effect, this should also amplify the speed our charge rate for the effect should kick in, and thus allow us to use our charge melee more often without the need of max stats or additional mods. While you're here, you may as well add on the Facet of Dawn fragment as well to the build, since charge melee will be constantly active at all times, and being Radiant is always a plus. You do also have your super, which should be Song of Flame, since the melee interaction will also trigger Necrotic Grip for even more damage over time. With melee covered, this will leave you with Facet of Hope and Balance, both of which will provide ability energy for all key 3 abilities being used in abilities. You then have Facet of Solitude, which is the last one, and this one I found to be a nice addition for all the many debuffs being applied towards the targets. Now if you go ahead and add the Destructive Spike mod to the build, you can enhance the Fragments' further effects, which will make it more stronger when dealing with ultra tier threats. The thing is, the build doesn't need much more from the seasonal mods unless you use Void or Arc, which we will use at times. This is where you would expand further from your end. For the mods and stats, this is what we went with. Resilience, we have ours at tier 10 for a 30% damage reduction. Included in the stats, we do have the Elemental Resistance mod, which will vary from element to element in game. We don't have anything additional from there, as I feel the build is complete enough, but I can see faster protection being viable if you decide to use a more close range setup. Discipline, we have ours at tier 10 for a 1 minute 1 second cooldown via storm grenades. Once more, the build won't be using grenades for anything noticeable this time round, except for dealing with additional damage. Because of this will allow you to freely pick a grenade type of your choosing. However, our strength stat will be at tier 4 for a 1 minute 53 second cooldown via arcane needles, and this one here will see a large play in the build. Now, just to note, tier 4 to 5 is reasonable in my eyes for melee, since it will be focusing on being transcendent to maximize our abilities at any time we can. This means you don't need to worry about adding mods or perks to further enhance the stat at all, unless you have the slots to do so, like shown. With the key stats looked into, we next have the mods that will be invested into making the build work throughout its usage. Start with Kinetic Siphon for creating orbs of power with kinetic weapons, Heavy and Ammo Finder, Reserves and Scavenger mods for a heavy weapon, Impact Induction times 2 for a 17% grenade buff, Momentum Transfer times 1 for a 12% melee buff, Charged Up times 1 for increasing the maximum stacks of armor charges by +1, Kinetic Surge times 1 for a 10% kinetic weapon buff, Time Dilation, where armor charge decay rate is reduced, a Powerful Attraction, where using your class ability will collect nearby orbs of power, and then Bomber for a 12% grenade regen via class ability usage is what I generally recommend. So as we have covered our Exotic primary and armor, I would then advise you to pick some super weapons for the build. What I recommend are all optional, so please keep this in mind. Our secondary will be the Undead Kindness with Adagio and Beacon rounds. Build doesn't need to have the following if you don't intend to use it for taking out the bigger enemies or generally breaking barrier shields. A good alternative for this would be the Lotus Eater with Repulsor Brace and Destabilizing rounds if you're looking for more protection for the build. Mind Detted is good for the purely damage side of the build, something to maximize on, while the Lotus Eater with the following is good for ad clearing and adding a bit of extra defense here and there. Depending on what you're after, the two are worth keeping in mind. Heavy with the Corrective Measure with Demolitionist and Firefly. This can only be gotten from the raid, but alternatives can be found if you want something similar like the Hammerhead. Corrective is amazing for all aspects of things you do, while the given role is going to be perfect when paired up with a seasonal mod for extra damage and weakening effect. I will be honest that the following has been in my vault for a very long time and generally not seen the light of day until now. However, its value on the field has shown to be quite effective over time. Necrotic Grip has always been a perfect exotic that requires little from the end user, and yet when paired up with Prismatic, can provide an unholy level of effect on a wide area. Many of you are familiar with how Facet of Grace works, so to maximize how fast we get a Transcendent state, all we need to do is use a effective kinetic weapon to build up our meter, activate it, and then use our powered melee with Facet of Dawn, and just go crazy from there. For this is where Osteo Striga comes in, and it provides more range and overall damage compared to Thorn. And, well, this will vary from time to time. As you can see from the gameplay, the build goes crazy when its Transcendent state is up and running, and the added on poison effect only allows the build to double down on the damage being done overall, like a nice simple way of going on a rampage. It's a classical build that does a lot for so little for players, and with the added on seasonal mod, you can further enhance it to apply bolt charges or volatile rounds to the build, depending on the weapons you have. If you're ever looking for a simple and reliable build that could do pretty much everything you want, then this little goldie will be perfect for future uses. If you have any thoughts on the content shared, then please leave a comment below. While if you enjoy the content and want more of these videos, then leave a like and a sub while you're here. A dim link for the build is located below in the pinned section, and I do advise you to check out my playlist for more. It was great sharing today's video with you all, and I hope to see you again soon.